Okay, Long Dogs, good morning. Sorry about it. We're 15 minutes late. We kind of stepped into a staff meeting here at BSLS Landscape Services. So it's probably been about 6 weeks since we've done a live video, and we apologize for that.
Well, we've done several from the car and never made it.
Yeah, it's funny. We were driving back from a client meeting, and we
attempted
We attempted like 9 times to do a video. So we're going to parlay off that video. So on the way up to a client in Maryland, we were going up to onboard a pay for performance bonus program, essentially, that we developed. It took us probably about a good 4 or 5 months to develop for the client. We were going up there to onboard it and we've been very successful with that process so far. And we were talking about Groundhog Day. And I don't know how the movie with Bill Murray, it kind of came up in the car, and Bill's like, I got a great video we can discuss with the Lawn Dogs, and it's Groundhog Day. And why don't you tell everybody what's Groundhog Day?
No, if you haven't seen the movie, it's one that it's got Michael Keaton in it, and the story is around. It's February 2nd every year. The Punxsutawney Phil comes out of the ground. He sees a shadow, or doesn't see a shadow. Is used for forecasting the weather. How many more weeks of winter? Well, the movie is about the fact that they get caught up in this town because of a snowstorm, and then suddenly what happens the next morning, Bill Murray wakes up and it's yesterday. And then he constantly goes on, and it looks like about a month of every time he gets out of bed, it's yesterday. He can't change anything. And I thought it was a great analogy because business owners, we are business owners, so we are talking to ourselves to some degree. If we don't change our behavior, our habits, the things that we do, every friggin' day is the same day. And if the day sucks, then when I get up in the morning, what am I saying to myself? Today is going to suck. And so what do I need to do about that? And so that's where we wanted to take it. And we probably made 8, 9 attempts on that trip up to get it to do this, but we couldn't get the bandwidth. And so the first thing I got up on the wall here is that if you're not the lead dog,
lawn dog, that is.
Think about this as you're in the Iditarod and you're racing. You're racing with your dogs. You're not the lead dog. The scenery never changes. So you can pretty much guess what I'm saying here. What part of the anatomy of the dog in front of you you're looking at. And so the deal is that if you are not the leader of your particular piece of the industry, whether it's you're the leader in turf or the leader in design build, or you're the leader in doing commercial, then you are not dictating the terms of the game. It's one of the things that the best companies do is that they set the rules that others play by. And I worked in the automotive industry, and this was the secret of a lot of good car companies, is that what they want you to do is copy their cars. Because while you are copying their great car, what are they doing? They're producing another one. And then pretty soon what happens is that they've got you in this loop. And so the deal number one is you've got to lead your market. You got to figure out what part of your niche that you're in that you want to lead in, and then you're going to lead on that. Whether you're leading on price, or you're leading on quality, you're leading on service, it doesn't matter. That's your calls as the business owner. So that's the first one.
So, we talk about, human resources and people so much. And the influence on organization is driven so much by the owner. And, me as an executive, 42 years in this industry, not always self-employed, I was an executive for several large companies. And, the mindset that I went into these organizations was with a very ownership mindset. And I went in as if I was the owner of the company. And what I realized in what we call these change management organizations, although my influence and positivity was coming into these organizations and sometimes overbearing or highly influential within those organizations, the organization still had the shape of the owner. And that's why we call it organizational mindset, not company culture. What we say is the organizational mindset is essentially how the organization thinks, acts, and delivers, but that trickles down from the CEO, president, not necessarily the COO or CFO.
Right. And so what happens in any business, our businesses as well, is they take on, and I'm gonna have a little fun with this. to take on the pathologies of the owner. And what I mean by pathologies is all of us who own businesses are friggin' crazy in some form or fashion. The idea that you're going to risk everything and be in business rather than, be one of the people that's collecting a check, you have to be slightly nuts to do this. And so what happens is that we all have these idiosyncrasies, these things about our personality quirks that make us unique. Well, the companies take on those characteristics, and sometimes that's really good, passion for quality. Other times is that you've got a lot of business owners, maybe a lot of you out there, is that your leadership style is called whack-a-mole. All you do all day is wait for the next mole to pop up to hammer it, rather than having a clear picture about what you want to do. Instead of pulling people to something, you kind of try to push them in that direction. And so when you look at a company, when we look at companies, all companies have the quirks of the owner, and sometimes those quirks are positive and they grow the company, but ultimately they're also the hindrance, the things that stop the company from getting any bigger. And
preventing it from operating in a mode that
Right.
is of some normalcy. And that kind of goes to our conversation yesterday that we
Yeah.
had with a client. We had a client call yesterday for about an hour where the client is totally frustrated with his business. I mean, to the point where it's like ready to sell a business yesterday. And, we got on the phone call, we did a conference call, and we asked him, what's your problem? What's bothering
Yeah.
you? People. Okay, the number one complaint is always people. And Bill and I kind of joke about what's the problem with people? I mean, there's, again, I've said this over and over, $80 billion industry, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies, very good, talented people. They're not working for you, they're working for somebody else. So why is having so many problems with people? So we had a conversation, we started digging into it a little bit. And, why don't you share what we found out, what we figured out?
Well, what we figured out was,
correlates right into this.
yeah, is that he's a whack-a-mole type of owner. He's been very good at handling fires and the things that happen. And what's happened in the company is that there's no clear consistency about how the place is being led. And so right now, it's being led by his employees. They come to work when they want to come to work. They don't come to work. He's afraid to fire them, and I'm sure you're all there, is that if I get rid of them, can I find another warm body to replace them, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, I think if he could have sold it yesterday, he would have. Otherwise, if we gave him dynamite, I think he would have blown it up.
Yeah. And we said to him, sometimes it's better to do, less and get more out of it than doing more and getting less out of it. Meaning, instead of having, 20 employees working, and having 5 of them not show up, maybe, have, a core group of good, 12 or 15 employees that are going to show up every day and create more with less, more revenue with less people. So, so the next thing I want to talk about with that is my post this morning. I posted 2 guys coming to BCL's Landscape Service riding up on their bicycle. And it's interesting. We have 4 guys here who live, I don't know, within 2 miles of here, and they ride their bicycle every day. And they actually live in the same community as our fleet manager. And they put the bicycles in the truck, his pickup truck, on the way home. But I realized this morning, and I didn't have to do a lot of look at a lot of numbers or statistics or data for this. We have at BCLS Landscape Services, I think I put up there a 99.5% rate of employees showing up on time every day. Okay, and it might even be higher. We just came out of a meeting right now. We had one guy they let go last week, and I know he was somebody always showed up at 5 after 7. It's all discipline. We have a weekly meeting here at 7 o'clock. If you're not here for the meeting at 7 o'clock, the door's closed. I mean, that's just the way it is. If you don't show up for work, you get written up. If it happens 3 times, you get terminated. If you are tardy and don't have a valid excuse, you're tardy outside of a reasonable explanation, you're written up. I mean, we have a foundation here with our playbook, our company handbook, and we enforce accountability. And look, folks, I'm not sugarcoating anything. We still have the same problems as every other landscaper out there. Okay, we have labor problems here, but we figure out how to do more with less, and we only want the people who share our vision, who believe in our values, and are buy-in, okay, to our policies and procedures and our expectations of them. And if you do that, it's a great company to grow with. So everybody can achieve what I'm achieving here, and everybody can achieve what we coach multiple clients with every single day. It takes effort. it takes, and some days are good and some days are bad. So the example that we gave you with that other client, all his problems are all controllable. We talk about controllable.
Right.
They're all controllable. Okay. The problem is he never set the playbook in motion or developed the playbook and never set that tone in motion, because the first day that he hired somebody or hires somebody, they go right out to work. Okay. And he doesn't sit down and take the time to discuss it with them. So anyway, so Groundhog Day, in essence, like Bill says, if you're not the lead dog, the scenery never changes. And a lot of that's habit. We're talking about habit. And the business takes on the pathology of the owner. If the owner does not have this framework or this mindset of how we think and how we act and how we deliver, both internally amongst each other and externally to the client, there's a potential or the possibility that that business will not be as successful as its ultimate potential.
That's right. And in the landscape industry, there seems to be someplace around 600,000 in revenue when this occurs, because up till then, an owner that is exceedingly good, knows what they're doing, works the hours, can actually do it themselves. But above $650,000, if you're not building the team underneath you and begin to develop what is the style of leadership around here, how are we going to manage, it's just going to turn into organized chaos. You're not going to get there.
Yeah. So last thing I want to do, Bill just sat in one of our staff meetings. They're having a Friday management meeting now, and I sometimes attend. And I went in there and I went around the room and I asked each person, so what one thing are you going to do this month, meaning July, that you did not do in June? And that was a spontaneous question that I came up with as I was sitting there. And somebody looked at me and said, "You want the answer right now?" And I was like, "Yeah, we want the answer right now." So you want to just kind of talk about that for 1 second of why I did that?
Yeah, because if you're going to have a culture of continuous improvement, what that means is that no matter how well anything went, it can always go a little bit better. And so the idea behind this is that, given what I learned last month, what should I be doing this month to build upon what I did last month? And so that kind of creates that mindset in our coaching business. My 2 cents into this is that our coaching business, we have plans that we work with clients where we get together and then you say, okay, I want to grow the company. I want to get to this level. What do we need to do? And then we basically help the business owner do that. Other times we're totally reactive in that I've got this huge problem. I got this whack-a-mole. Can you help me with the whack-a-mole? And what I realized is that I've got to force business owners to do more work, because what happens is you get caught up in the week and then suddenly whatever we were working on is 2 weeks ago, and we've lost whatever momentum we had, and it's part of the future of the business, instead of, well, now we're back to where we were. And so that was mine, but that was continuously improving our coaching process, and so that we can do a better job for you, so that you can grow your company. Because to me, why am I doing this? I have 2 things. One is to make business owners wealthy, and 2, create jobs. Those are the 2 things that drive my behavior and why I'm in this industry.
Let me just quickly share. David Mead posed a question. We're going to answer David's question on here. David, I hope you still are on here. Why don't you, David, if you're still on, just put a message in the box so I see, and I'm going to answer your question. And Dustin, I appreciate you joining. And Mario, thanks for the kind compliment. So we have a bunch of people out on vacation this week, so our meeting was a little bit short with people, but I want to share with you, some of the things. So the question I asked, and I want you to do, is I want you folks to apply this to whether you have one person or multiple persons, or you can even apply it to yourself. But the question I asked is, what's one thing you're going to do different in July that you did not do in June? So I want to share with you. So Howard Rose is our company chief operating officer, and he said connectivity. And his explanation was he had a phenomenal week this week, spending time out in the field at our branch office in Northern Virginia and with our managers, and driving properties and stopping in and talking to property managers and clients. And what he realized is it put him on the front ground, the battlefield of seeing, how our teams are performing. So he saw that as a really big benefit. So he wants to spend less time in the office, more time in the field. He wants to spend less time working in the business, more time working on the business by being outside and looking at the big picture. Tricia Wary, who's one of our customer relationship managers. So she sells work essentially and builds relationships, I should say, builds relationships that ultimately sell work. She wants to focus more on the relationship building and less on the selling. And she wants to focus on the bigger fish. Trisha is very good at what she does, and she likes selling to bigger clients versus residential clients. So that's something very positive to her. Carlos Salinas is one of field operations managers, and he said connectivity with customers, his interaction with his crews, and Carlos runs 4 or 5 crews, and he's responsible for probably 8 or 10, maybe 8, 10, 12 guys, and focus on quality. So again, connectivity, more interaction, teaching and coaching his crews out in the field. Bill over here said, be more aggressive, more active versus passive. Is that how you put it?
And instead of being responsive to accounts.
That's right. You want to be more drive accounts.
Which, by the way, in the landscape business you do as well, don't you?
Right. Absolutely. We do it all the time. Meaning with clients that we interact with, we need to reach out more to the clients and engage with them and push them to engage with us. There's a lot of positivity that when you engage with us, the results that you can yield. Myself, mine was behaviors. Now, folks, I'm an owner. Okay, I'm a type A personality, and I believe in continual personal and professional growth. And for the last 8 months, I've stepped back into the role of ownership and owning 2 companies now. And I'm very focused on my own behaviors and how I interact with people and how I act and react to different search situations within my environment. So it's been a great journey of growth for me. So behaviors is mine. And then our customer care manager, Bernice Powell, said she wants to work more in training and developing people in the field. And she gave an example. It's easy to put a process in place visually and show somebody something, but I want to do it more through training. And this actually relates to our recycling program. We have a recycling program, throughout our company, and I constantly find recyclable, contaminated garbage pails, and drives me nuts. And I said, put together a memo, and she said, no, I don't want to do a memo. What I'm going to do is actually get involved with everybody out in the field. So this is a good question. Ask yourself this question. Ask your team members a question. Okay, so David Mead, he asked the question, how do I administer a playbook midstream and not upset what you have going on? Great question.
It is.
It's such a great question because that's the problem. Is it's going to upset people. It's going to disrupt the norm because that playbook wasn't put in place at the beginning. So any changes that are influenced within the organization, depending on how it's rolled out and depending on how people buy into it, some people get their feathers ruffled. It can be done. We're doing it here. And we've done it with multiple clients.
Yeah.
It gets done. And I'm going to let Bill answer a little bit, but I'll give you a quick overview of it. It gets done, number one, through transparency. So really, letting people know. First, you have to establish what that playbook is and making sure that that playbook is in place, as a tool and a resource. And then it's how it's put out there, communicated to your team members, and then how is it used as a tool for accountability. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
I think that the way you take advantage of the fact, okay, so you should have done it at some earlier date. Okay, that's a given. Now, how do I take advantage of it? Well, the way that you sell this, you say, okay, we've looked at what we're doing well and we've codified it. We've got a playbook now for the stuff that we're doing very, very well, so it's consistently done. Number 2 is that we got some stuff we're not doing very well, and now we got a playbook to address those issues. So you can very quickly turn that around and say, all I'm doing is one, putting into, however you'd like to say it, I'm coming from software, I like to say, I wrote it in the code, now it happens. And then number 2 is, now we're also making up for the things that are not working. And so I don't think it's that difficult of a sell. It's more of, was it well thought through? Have you got it right? How committed are you? Because once you put it out there, you got to enforce it. If you don't intend to enforce it 100% of the time, you better not to have it.
Right. So again, this is where the accountability comes in. The playbook, sometimes I refer to it as the playbook or the handbook of convenience. We like to pull it out when we need to use it, but we don't use it all the time as a tool. We have a client in North Carolina, a great client of ours for over a year, and he had major disruptions in his business over the last few weeks with people, and it has to do with his playbook and how that playbook is influencing the behaviors in the organization. And he was getting a lot of resistance, and he asked me, what do I do? I said, it's time to have a state of the union with your company and really put your foot down respectfully, okay, and tell people how things are going to be done and get control back. And he's actually gotten control back of his company, and I think his team members actually respect him more as a business owner and as a leader, specifically because of that. So Nick Lopez, thank you for the tan. Yes, I was on vacation in Aruba for 8 days. Nick, thank you very much. You should be getting that tan on your boat too, as long as you're not under the bimini top. And don't forget to keep your trim tabs level so your boat's not always looking like you're leaning to the right. So a little fun for Nick. Okay, so Dustin writes volume equals results. And if I'm interpreting that, Dustin, what you're saying is the bigger you are, the more results you get. And I disagree with that, because the results can be achieved at any size. And would you interpret the same way? Or what would you?
Yeah, I think there is. I think when you're very, very small, it's difficult to get the type of results you're looking for simply because you don't have enough resources. In fact, interesting you asked that question. Research that I've done is that below 20, it's really difficult to run an efficient operation. Do you know the most profitable companies in the United States are between 21 and 500 employees? After that, then it gets too big. So you get some economies of scale. So I would definitely say that in order to run, from what we've seen to run a landscape business, probably around 40 employees, and you may be at the sweet spot in terms of the number of people you have working for you, because you also have some law issues about over 50 employees. And then number two, the question should be now is efficiency. In other words, I got the volume, do I have the margins? And this is where having more people really works out, because what you can begin to do is to take out all of the cost issues, all of the defects, and you can do a much better job of wringing out the last penny out of a revenue dollar.
But you got to remember, many lawn dogs are small companies.
Oh, yeah.
They're the 1, 2, 3, 5 employee companies. And what we say is, look, even if you stay 1 to 5 employees, or if you're going to grow from 5 to 10 or above, it doesn't make a difference. Even, we've told sole proprietors to have a company handbook for themselves. Yeah. Okay, because again, it's something to follow, and that company handbook, that playbook, is only the foundation, one block in the foundation, because there are multiple playbooks that form your business systems and processes and your policy and procedures in the company. So for David, what I want you to do is I want you to inbox us on Facebook your contact information. Here's an offer. David, we will help you and talk to you. We'll get on the phone with you and talk to you specifically about your playbook, if you have one, if not, and we'll help you along with that. And we'll give you some coaching on how to roll out, and let us learn a little bit more about your business. Yeah. And then we'll help guide you. We'll help guide you a little bit on that. So David, reach out to us. And then with David Mayolo, I believe, you have to know your numbers no matter your size. Absolutely, you have to know your numbers no matter your size. And you can do that very easily, on a piece of paper by knowing your costs. So you can do it with technology today. But yes, that's very important. Numbers are very important because that's the foundation of estimating, is knowing what your costs are to be in business. So good. Listen, we had some good interaction here. David and me just said thanks, will do. So we look forward to enacting with you. So again, here's Lawn Dogs. Bill and I are not here to sell you. We're here to build relationships with everybody on this group. We're here to help you. And if you noticed a post the other day, a gentleman from I believe the Pacific Northwest, I think it's Washington State, had a problem collecting money from a client, and I reached out. I posted on here, reach out to me. I said to him jokingly, you need to hire a Jewish lawyer. That's me. But he reached out to me, and I got all his information about the situation with the client, and his contract and his communications and his email. And I spent about 3 or 4 hours going through that. And I ended up writing some letters to his client, not threatening letters, just very nice letters outlining the facts of the case, and giving that client the opportunity to settle before we took it to litigation. And pleased to say that that client actually settled with him 2 days after they received 2 certified letters that I drafted for that individual that I met on Lawn Dogs. And he was very appreciative of it. He didn't get charged for it. I did it to help him. All I asked was for a thank you. So yeah, we are in business to make money, but we do believe that if we can help this small guy grow, we have multiple platforms to help you guys with. If you've never visited our website, greenmarkcoaching.com, we have a plan for $99 a month, $249 and $495 a month. So, you know, $99, most lawn dogs probably spend that a week on lunch. I know I do, unfortunately. You know, you can have Bill and I available to you on a retainer to answer any questions you have. But anyway, listen, thanks everybody.
Yeah.
I hope everybody's having a great summer. It's productive. And if you need anything, let us know. And Dustin, you and I are due a phone call, so reach out to me if you want to talk over the weekend, get caught up a little bit now that I'm back in the swing. So Lawn Dogs, thank you. Listen, have a great weekend, and we'll speak to you soon.
Take care.